esteemed guests. My name is Naledi Ntide. I'm the Director for Research at the University of Mpumalanga. Welcome to the University of Mpumalanga. Welcome to Mpumalanga as a province, a place of the rising sun. And for those who are from outside South Africa, welcome to South Africa. Thank you for making time to join us this morning, the rest of today, and for the duration of the conference. The African Young Graduate and Scholars Conference, normally known as the AYGS, an initiation of the AISA, Africa Institute of South Africa, that is within the Human Sciences Research Council, HSRC. So there are so many acronyms that you'll be using today, but I'm sure you'll be familiar with them. Colleagues, the conference is hosted by HSRC's AISA in collaboration with the University of Mpumalanga, the National Research Foundation's Future Earth Africa Hub Leadership Center, the Partnership for African Social and Governance Research, and other partners. So this is a collaborative effort in hosting this conference. It is with great pleasure to have colleagues from the mentioned institute. I'm sure you have seen our program. We've got colleagues from those institutes that I have mentioned, and we are very delighted to be having them with us, for them to join us for the duration of the conference, for them to contribute to the discussions, their knowledge sharing, expertise, as well as sharing what they understand with regards to enabling Africa's inclusive and sustainable development, challenges and opportunities. Colleagues, this platform brings together young African scholars from the continent, Africa's future academic leaders, researchers, and responsible citizens who aim to do better because they know better. Amongst us, we have participants from Cameroon. We've got participants from Kenya, from Madagascar, from Nigeria, from Tanzania, from Zambia, and others that I have not mentioned. And we also have colleagues from the province, those who come in from Cape Town, from Gauteng, from Free State, from KwaZulu-Natal, and Venda, and others that I have not mentioned. If I have not mentioned your country or your province, you are also most welcome. Let me provide a bit of context on the University of Mpumalanga. If I don't do that, I will not be doing justice to my employer. As you know, that the University of Mpumalanga is one of the two newly established universities in South Africa. On the 3rd of November 2023, we celebrated our 10th year anniversary. Yes, the university celebrated its 10th year anniversary in November 2023 under the theme, Decade of Excellence and Creating Opportunities. Our second university that was established together with the University of Mpumalanga is Sol Plaatje University. I think it's great that we have universities that are established in our lifetime. I know most of us colleagues, most of you here are from universities that have been in existence for years, for decades. University of Mpumalanga celebrated its 10th year, November 2023. And the institution is offering 78 qualifications for now, with a range from higher certificates to doctoral degrees. And of those, which is most relevant to you who are here, we've got 16 qualifications at master's level, and we've got 7 at doctoral level. Let me also mention that our registration for postgraduate is still open, ending the end of April for those who are interested in studying with us. I thought I should mention that. We continue to rally behind our vision as the University of Mpumalanga to be an African university leading in creating opportunities for sustainable development through innovation. We are excited and privileged to participate in the strategic partnership as we continue to contribute towards shaping the continent's future. Colleagues, as I conclude with my welcome remarks, I want to observe protocol. Let me say all protocol observed, and I want to acknowledge and show sincere appreciation to the university's management, the executives from our partner institutions, councils, colleagues, our speakers, our participants, our presenters, and delegates, and also the task team that put this together. Sincere appreciation to everybody, and a very warm welcome. Thank you. Before I leave the podium, I want to hand over the baton to my colleague, Dr. Sabelo Gumetse, an executive head from HSRC/AISA. Dr. Gumetse, over to you. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me extend our sincere gratitude to the University of Mpumalanga for hosting us in this very important occasion. An event of this nature is an event that is actually going to be a game changer to the African continent. As we are all gathered here to shape our continent, it's important for us to appreciate that our continent has got a lot of challenges, but also opportunities for all of us. So a warm welcome to all of you to this 19th AYGS conference. And it's such a wonderful thing to happen in a conference of this nature where we have a pre-conference workshop that is going to provide us with the tools to shape our thinking, to ensure that we exchange ideas for the betterment of our continent. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may know, the AYGS was initiated by AISA some 19 years ago to serve as a vital platform for young scholars, policymakers, as well as practitioners, in order for them to collaborate and exchange research-based insights on Africa's development challenges. AISA, the Africa Institute of South Africa, as you all know, undertakes basic research and as well as applied policy research that focuses on the development challenges facing the African continent. It also seeks to provide leadership and harness African agency in the drive for transformation of African societies into what we want to see: African societies being dynamic, African societies being peaceful, and African societies being prosperous. So we are all gathered here to rally behind this vision that we are having. Ladies and gentlemen, you should know by now that AISA is a very old institute. It was founded in 1956 and incorporated into the HSRC in 2014. And as such, you all need to consider yourselves to be part of a great institute that is there, or that was founded to shape the African thinking for the betterment of our continent. Ladies and gentlemen, for this year's theme that focuses on enabling Africa's inclusive and sustainable development is very, very critical at this moment in the African continent. And it is my belief that this year's conference, AYGS conference, will not just be interesting to all of us, but will also provide concrete answers to the challenges that we are having. We all know that within the African continent, we have the youngest population. When you look at the statistics, we have what is known as a youth bulge. This presents a lot of challenges in terms of our own development within the continent. But it also provides us with great opportunities as young scholars that are gathered here. They will be able to provide solutions to the challenges that we are facing in the continent. So it is my hope, ladies and gentlemen, that as we gather here, deliberate on the challenges that we are facing, we get solutions from the young people. Because without the youth, Africa is doomed. So your active participation is encouraged. Your thinking faculties must be geared towards addressing the challenges that we are facing in the continent. And I'm very happy that the sub-themes that we are looking at during this very important event will be focusing on governance, will be focusing on peace and security, will be focusing on sustainable agriculture and food systems. It will be focusing on climate change. These are challenges that we are facing in the African continent. It is not challenges that we are only facing today. It's challenges that were faced even in the past. So let us be game changers in this conference by providing solutions to these problems and challenges. Let me take this opportunity as I'm about to descend to thank the University of Mpumalanga for hosting us and for being a great partner. Our CEO has given us a message that says this is not the end. We would like to continue with the partnerships even in future. I want to also thank the Department of Science and Innovation for providing us with the support. And we are very happy that we have a department that is interested to seeing us providing solutions to the African challenges. I want to also thank the National Research Foundation for also partnering with us in this very important exercise. I also want to extend our sincere appreciation to the Future Earth Africa Hub Leadership Center, as well as to the Partnership for African Social and Governance Research for being part and parcel of this exercise. Lastly, let me thank all the participants that are going to be participating in this very important event. Let me also thank the scientific committee. Let me also thank the organizers of this very important event. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let me wish you success in the workshop that we are going to have today, and also wish you a productive conference in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gumetse. And indeed, let us ensure that we exchange ideas and for the betterment of the continent. Solutions will come from us. Where else can they come from? But from us as Africans, as young scholars, as academics, as researchers. As we continue with the opening remarks, colleagues, I want to welcome Mr. Michael Ngumalo from the NRF Future Africa, the NRF Future Earth Africa Hub Leadership Center, who will be speaking on next generation and emerging researchers on behalf of Dr. Ngango. Mr. Michael.
Good morning, colleagues. I'm not Michael. My name is Daniel Nyanganyira. I work with Michael. I'm the director for the Future Earth Africa Hub Leadership Center. We are glad to be part of this event. Thank you, Madam Director. All protocols observed. As the Future Earth Africa Hub and the Leadership Center, we are honored and privileged to be part of this event. We are also honored to be part of the organizers of this event, to contribute to the process that brought us here. It is the first time we are contributing to such an important event as the Hub and Leadership Center. But we are looking forward to a continued collaboration and working together with all the partners that are part of this important event. We, as the Hub and Leadership Center of the Future Earth in Africa, we have got a couple of activities we really are promoting. Some of the presentations we are going to make during this event, this conference, will actually show where we are going and why it's important for us to be part of this event. But most importantly, one of the things we are focusing on as the Hub and Leadership Center is to ensure that we develop the capacity of young researchers on the continent. We work with different early and mid-career researchers to promote their skills, to ensure that they contribute effectively to research on the continent, not only for their professional development, but also how their research can impact the decisions that are going to be made in the corridors of power through the influence of policy, through the influence of the implementing of science-informed policies. One of the focus we have is capacity strengthening. We are working with early career researchers, postdoc, PhD students, and the activities we are doing which are resonating with the people who are sitting here. We also saw a couple the abstracts. We were part of the people who looked in the abstracts, and we really see a resonance between what we are doing and what this conference is all about. We really would want to look forward to continue contributing to this and also looking into continuous engagement with the early career researchers that are sitting in this room, with the seasoned researchers that are going to contribute to the knowledge that we are going to acquire through this conference. We would want to thank the HSRC for leading this process. And we are looking forward to continue the continuous engagement with this community. The Future Earth Africa Hub Leadership Center, the Hub and Leadership Center are part of a bigger organization. We are not alone. The Africa Hub is one of the 9 global hubs. So by engaging with you, we can also open up opportunities of how the young careers on the continent can contribute more effectively to the work we are engaging. One thing I want to left with the early career researchers, don't do the mistakes the seasoned career researchers did. They did their research in the lab without looking at what the policymakers want. As a result, the bridge between the policymakers and the researchers is not completely done. So I want you to look into the African Agenda 2063. Look at the Agenda 2030. Is their work talking to those activities that are part of that? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel, who is with Michael. Thank you. Colleagues, I'm really looking forward to the upcoming presentations. As mentioned by our colleague on the NRA Future Earth Africa Hub Leadership Center, the work they do and the support they offer to our emerging researchers and how we can effectively contribute towards policies for the betterment of the continent. On the program, I'm going to welcome, as we continue with the opening remarks, Dr. Paulina Ngimwa, Acting Executive Director, Partnerships for African Social and Governance Research. Doc, over to you. Thank you.
Dr. Naledi, the Director Research Management here at University of Mpumalanga, Dr. Sabelo, Executive Head at AISA, other partners, invited guests, our young scholars, good morning. I bring you greetings from Nairobi, Kenya. Good morning. In Nairobi, we say habari, and you say mzuri sana. My name is Pauline. My colleague here just whispered and said that I have been given another name. I welcome Paulina as well. My father actually calls me Paulina. I'm Pauline Ngimwa. I'm currently the Acting Executive Director, the Partnership for African Social and Governance Research. And I feel quite honored to be part of this important space where we are focusing on helping or enabling our next generation of policy researchers and policy actors to address the question of inclusive growth using your evidence. This is quite important. And we at the Partnership for African Social and Governance Research, we believe very much that we need to strengthen the capacities of our early and mid-career researchers, and particularly to pay a lot of attention on how we enable them move their research beyond their laboratories, their fieldwork, to the policy space, to inform decisions and drive real change. The Partnership for African and Social and Governance Research was established slightly before University of Mpumalanga. It was established in 2011. And we draw our inception or our initiation from the Commission for Africa report. Those who are of our age would recall that around 2005, there was this report that came out from the Tony Blair's regime, and it was called the Commission for Africa. It talked about many things. I don't know why they were interested in our well-being as Africa, but one particular thing that came out was a disconnect. We have very good social science researchers. And when I look around, I see there are some social science researchers, and I have seen their work. And I know a number of you are coming out. Our departments of social sciences are very strong, but they lack one thing. At that time, they lacked a connection to our policy. So we have, on one hand, very good researchers. On the other hand, they are not informing the policy. So what we had were policies that were not relevant for our context, simply because they were not evidence-driven. I used to have a boss and a mentor called Professor Tade, and he always told us, bad policies kill. And you know that, because we are all Africans, we are coming from our own context, and we have seen what policies do. Enabling policies help, but bad policies, poor policies kill. And that is why my organization was established. And because of that, we are very, very intentional about what kind of future generation we're going to have. We're going to have researchers that are very capacitated to be able to support the policy. But on the other hand, we have policy actors who can neutralize that evidence that is coming up. That is who we are, and that is why when we were invited by HSRC AISA to partner in supporting our early career researchers, we took up the challenge, and in the last 3 years, we've been working very closely with AISA. Every year we co-host with AISA, and we are delighted to be able to do this because we have seen what this can do to our early career researchers. So we are here today, and we are going to be facilitating a session this morning, and the session will basically focus on that, on how do we support our early career researchers with the right skills to be able to engage in that policies space. So before I leave the stage, I just want to briefly say what else we do at PASGR. We are based in Nairobi. Like I said, we were established in 2011. We are not a Kenyan organization. We are a partnership of African institutions, universities. We work actually with research institutions, with universities, to do three things: to commission and work with researchers and generate policy evidence, and also take it to the policy space. So we have a tool I'll be talking, or a model that I'll be talking about later. And then we have postgraduate programs. We have two of them. We have a collaborative Master of Research and Public Policy, which is done in 13 African countries, universities in 7 countries. And on one hand, we focus on policy actors. Those students want to become policy actors, but also equip those ones who want to become policy researchers. And out of that master's, we were able to put together a doctoral program. And currently, the doctoral program is being delivered by 3 universities. I am very happy to say that in this gathering, we have our 3 students from that program. The program is delivered in University of Ibadan, so we have a student from Ibadan. University of Nairobi, we have 2 students from University of Nairobi, and University of Pretoria. So that's what we do with capacity building, the pipeline, but we also work with early and mid-career researchers. Those researchers who have gone through, they have research skills, but they need to be strengthened in the policy research. So that's what we do in PASGR, and we'll be talking more about how some of the tools that we've been using to engage with the policy. So I want to end my remarks by appreciating AISA for giving us this opportunity to work together. I would like to also sincerely appreciate University of Mpumalanga. It's a very beautiful place. Would love to keep coming. So I hope, Professor Sabero, you will create those opportunities for us to come. It's really beautiful. And it's a young university, but has really grown. As we can see in 10 years, a decade is big, it's long, but we can see what you have done. So we really want to thank you for this space. I also want to say that in our midst, we will be facilitating with my colleague, and an esteemed policy partner who we have worked with over the years, Professor Fatai Aremu, and we will be co-facilitating the session that comes later with him. So I want to write down on what Dr. Sabero said, encouraged you, that please do submit to this space learning. Let's learn together, let's hear, let's exchange our experiences. This is a learning space. It's also a very safe space where we learn together and we engage one another. So I want to wish you all a very insightful and inspiring space, and just submit to learning. At the end of it, I believe you will be a better policy researcher, able to engage at that space. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pauline Ngwima. We really appreciate those opening remarks. And colleagues, I'm sure we get to realize as we close off the opening remarks from our speakers, the importance of building capacity as a continent, the importance of influencing our own policies through research, scientific research, the importance of coming up with our own solutions for the challenges that we are facing as a continent. We are now going to be moving to the third part of the program, where Mr. Rodney Managa will be setting the scene. As he sets the scene, from there we're going to move on to the training sessions, and I will be handing over the baton to him. But before I do so, for those who have not used the ladies' rooms and the gents' rooms, they're at the back. As you may exit through this door, this glass door, and then you turn to your right, that's where the ladies and the gents' room are at. For those who will be receiving calls, important calls, kindly take them outside. We've got beautiful space for you to do so outside and also view our campus. After the training, then we're going to be having breaks and followed by another training session, the second one. Then we will be going for lunch. Before we go for lunch, we will be directing you where lunch will be served. So let me welcome Mr. Rodney Managa, Senior Research Specialist from the HSRC, AISA. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Greeting colleagues. As indicated, my name is Rodney Managa from HSRC. So I'm going to actually introduce the program that we have for this, for today, for the pre-conference training, and give a few of the how we are going to conduct this training, and there's some ground rules that will apply. So I think the speakers that have come before me, they've welcomed you, they've encouraged you, and you know what you expect. This pre-conference training, this program is very important, and would appeal that you engage with it, with the facilitators, and gain, because the idea, the main objective of this conference is to ensure that we are building the capacity for our young and emerging scholars in the continent, because the future of the African continent, or actually in particular the future of the world, rests on the hands of African youth. So the first program is going to facilitated by Dr. Pauline Ngimwa and Professor Fatai Aremu. They will facilitate the session on the critical policy engaged research for public policy. You see there are different aspects that they will touch. But I want to say that, colleagues, the time that we have, if we are just talking about this topic, these are big topics, but they will try to give you what is important and what you can actually equip you when you get out of here, then you can able to advance on these topics on your own, or then also link up. I think the second program we will have from the Future Earth, as we have indicated, that will touch on the initiative that the Future Earth is doing for the continent, especially on the emerging scholars and early career researchers. And then we will have a session which you will have a chance to interact with the people who are working on the publication spaces, and also what us as a HSRC, NRF, SciAS, and Future Earth we are doing in terms of like making sure that your research, it gets published and it also disseminated out there. I think that will be the session that will just come before lunch. After lunch, we have a session that was going to be on this research for policy, which will be more now on the policy briefs as a science policy advice tools. So you will see that this is going to be a program that will take place in the afternoon, and there will be some of the presentations that will be reflecting on some specific policy briefs that the HSRC and the NRF have worked together on. So colleagues, before I invited our first facilitators, I want to urge you to say, when we are asking questions, let's try to keep it to the point. The time is limited, and so that we can able to cover our whole of our program. And also, our facilitators are here throughout the conference. If you also still have opportunity during lunch and during breaks to interact with them as well. But let's make sure that we able to respect time, and then we stick to the time. So Dr. Ngimwa and Professor Fatai Aremu, over to you. Thank you so much.
So I need help. Oh, good. So I believe you're ready with this session. It's really going to be an interactive session. Like I said, we are going to learn from each other. And I will handle this session with my colleague, our policy partner, Professor Remu. He will introduce himself because it is important that he tells you what he does and how he has, as a researcher, engaged with very high-level policy space, and what he has used, the tools that he has used to engage, and the success. And this is going to be very engaging. So we hope that within the limited time that we have, he will also be able to engage with you and answer your questions. So I do want to encourage you to make very good use of him and his expertise. So We have at PASGR, as part of our support for early career researchers, training modules. They are really experiential resources that we use to engage our early career researchers. And in those tools and modules, we have what we call critical policy research, or popularly known as CIPA. And what we do is to introduce that level of researchers to how they engage with the policy. So this is normally a 2-3 day session. So what we are trying to do is to squeeze all that to 2 hours and also create space for engagement. We will see how best we can do that. I'm trying to see whether this will work. Okay. Right. So, researchers, as you know, we are used to doing research and mainly for knowledge creation. That's what we are told, isn't it? We generate knowledge. And most often, that knowledge, we use it to engage within our community of scholars, researchers. So we publish papers, we publish articles, and that is important because we also promoted on the account of how well we have published, where we have published, how much, how many papers we have published. We get our employment, that's how we are hired, that's how we are promoted. But sadly, most of our very rigorous, detailed, variable knowledge does not leave that space. And in some cases, and you'll know, we find ourselves there. So our work remains there on the shelves, sometimes accumulating dust. In modern day, day of electronics, our work just remains as electronic, in electronic folders. It doesn't get beyond that, and it doesn't also get beyond our community. So when it does, sometimes it does not speak to policy. And in some spaces, also it doesn't speak to practice. Our focus today is on policy. So we want to ask ourselves this fundamental question. Why is that the case? I'm not saying that we don't produce good work. We do. And I'm not saying we don't engage. We are being told to publish. I know we do. But we want to drive that beyond that space of engagement. And like I said in my remarks, in Africa, we have such deep policy problems, public policy problems, that would benefit a lot from what we are doing. And I want to take you back to our focus of this conference that addresses a critical aspect of Agenda 63, the inclusive growth, sustainability issues, and looking at what are the challenges and where are the opportunities. So we cannot run away from this issue of policy engagement with our evidence. So this workshop will try to respond to that question. But before I move, I want to just hear from just a few of you, your thoughts towards this. Why is it that we still have barriers moving our evidence to policy space? Yeah. Please, quick, maybe one or two. Yeah, it's going to be a very engaging, because we believe that some of you are actually coming from the policy space. So do we have our colleague from Togo?
Can I answer in French?
Yes, please.
Me, I think that c'est une question de complexe d'infériorité. On adule l'inconnu et l'étranger. Les Africains ont tendance à sous-estimer les productions de leurs pairs et à surestimer les productions étrangères, occidentales.
Thank you very much. Can I request my good friend to repeat the question in a language I understand better?
Thank you, colleagues. I think the colleague from Togo is mainly emphasizing the point that that Africa has got more or less like an inferiority kind of complex in terms of mainstreaming policy, that most often we don't value the policy of a peer. We don't value the policy that is being preferred by another African country, but we more or less go to policies that are being developed somewhere else, perhaps Paris, London, or New York, basically.
Thank you very much, and thanks for that observation. And that's why we are here. We are African researchers tackling African challenges. And we want to use our African contextual evidence to support our policy issues so that we can flip that narrative. So there's a hand here. Yep.
Thank you. It's Pumalanga Duma. I'm with the NRF. But I think before it gets to that level of the inferiority complex, I think that's a very important and a great point. But I think the main problem where it lies, that's really at a much more deeper level. I agree with this part, that is a bit way deeper. But initially, I think it's the very unclear lineages of communications between the academic sector and the government in terms of the work that is happening in academia, the research that is being done, and then the proper channels through which you can then communicate your work with them, unless you are in a way being brought in as a consultant. That is much more clear. But ordinarily, as Pumalanga Duma, if I'm just doing my research work right now, very policy-oriented, there are no proper direct channels that I can then use to then try and communicate that work to the government policymakers. I can write a policy brief, have it published, but it will be stuck somewhere as you see those documents on that shelf. So I think the main, at a more of a basic level, before we go to the places about how we feel about ourselves, I think the initial problem is those very unclear lines of communications between the researchers, evidence-based research, of course, the work that is being done around policies and the government sector.
Very important, and we are coming back to that. Yeah, we have a hand here.
Thank you so much. My name is Vincent Kundimana from South Africa Foundation, Nairobi, Kenya. So for me, the barriers that I see in terms of incentives, both on the side of the researcher and the policymaker. So as you mentioned for a researcher, for him, his incentive is, to publish and get promoted. That's it. For a policymaker, they discount the future. They want to, to rush things and get re-elected, and that's it. So that's where I see the disconnect, like aligning those incentives and making sure that, another thing that I see is on the side of a researcher is we don't want to engage the policymakers as at the level of, even designing a research question. And we're looking forward to engage them once we have already, published a research outcome, and then we want to engage them, and yet they have not yet, been engaged at the point of the research design. So that's where I understand the challenges are.
Very well. I wish we had time because we would go on and on, but in the interest of time, let's move on. hold on to those 3 observations, because really, in the course of this time, we'll be able to address those questions. So our colleague here talked about that disconnect. And you can see what you're talking about. On one hand, we have researchers, isn't it? And these researchers, they come up with heavy data, yeah? Sometimes very deep, well-nuanced jargon. Sometimes we take a lot of time to even produce evidence. And on the other hand, we have policy makers who require to make policies, and sometimes they don't even have time. They want urgent decisions. And of course, we have political realities. We also want to communicate very clearly, yeah, to our colleagues in the policy space. So on one hand, we have researchers, and that's who researchers are. On the other hand, we have the policy actors. And here, we see this rift. We see this great divide. What we are trying to do in this workshop, we want to see how we can try to reduce that, address that cursing. Try to bring the two together. What tools do we use? Like you have said, at what stage do we start working with the policymakers? Do we wait until we have our evidence? Or how can we bring them on board? So our workshop, briefly, will be seeking to introduce some strategies that can bridge that gap between the research and the policy. And at the end of this brief session, these are what we expect to achieve. We want to help you understand how policy-engaged research applies in research process, right from the conceptualization. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. And we'll also identify some areas of engagement. We will also seek to help you gain an appreciation of how you map different actors, policy actors. And this, you will see why it is important to do that. And also, nurturing a very important component of the policy actors. We call them the policy champions. What do you do so that you can capture them and leverage what they bring in the policy space? And finally, we will try to see what tools and what we call them tools of engagement that we use to engage our findings with the policy actors. So that is what we are going to do. We have structured our presentation in these 4 topics, and we do hope that time will allow us to just walk through them, all of them, without necessarily cutting some of them down. So again, I want to come back to you. What we advocate for is that when you're engaging policy actors, and you realize I'm using policy actors very broadly. I'm using policy actors to represent everyone who is at that space, including the decision makers or the policy makers. And this is very intentional. At PASGR, we bring all of them together because we believe that they're important. Whether you are the ultimate policymaker or you are a technocrat working with these policymakers, or you are a champion or even a media person, all of you are important in that space. So what we believe in is that you should engage right at the conceptualization. And in your case, it is at the proposal writing. So I will just walk you through some of the reasons why this is important. First of all, it makes your work relevant. So when you start engaging at that space, you get to understand the real issues that you want to address from the policy actor's perspective. So you are able to then generate questions that are more aligned to the need of the policymakers. Important too is the issue of impact. You don't want to just engage and give your evidence without the impact. We always aspire to create impact. That is very difficult, but it is important and it is possible when you bring the researchers, the policy actors right at the beginning, because then after you have aligned your research questions along the needs of the policymakers, then you can expect to have the desired impact at the end of it. Then, of course, you come up with more realistic recommendations. Again, plowing back to the impact question. More of it is that, of course, you get the buy-in. I was being asked that question only yesterday by my boss, because it's something we are doing together. How do you get the buy-in of the policy actors? It's a very important question, because if you don't get the buy-in, then you'll be on this side of the researchers, and you'll not be able to bridge that chasm that we have seen. And that is why it is important to engage them right at the beginning so that you get their buy-in. And we'll see, I will give you some of the examples that we use at PASGR to make sure that that happens. This is a practical issue. When you go out to the field, I don't know how many of you have gone out to the field and really faced challenges accessing the field. I can see some smiles there. Yeah, this is really a practical question. If you get the buy-in of the policy actors and you're going to their space to collect data, you already know them, they already know you, they know you have already created that rapport, then it becomes very, very easy for you. They open the doors for you, they become good gatekeepers for you. So it is important that you do that. But also importantly is that it also helps you with funding. Yeah? So some of those people, they have money. And if what you're doing aligns with their need, then it is possible to get money. I'll be giving you an example of how when I was a student, I was able to tap into some good money just because I engaged. Then, of course, you will be able to communicate your findings in a timely manner. So these are some of the examples, and I know some of you who've been in this space have already experienced it. I know some of you, like that gentleman over there who was just smiling, I can see. I think you had a very interesting experience doing your data collection. I know you have already experienced this. Quickly, I want to show you or just walk you through some of what we do, some of the strategies that you can use at the proposal development. The first thing is that this requires proactive, strategic, and sustained efforts. It's not something that you do once and you leave. Yes? You need to be very strategic also, and we'll see how do you become strategic through what we call a stakeholder or a policy stakeholder mapping exercise, so that you actually engage with those ones that are going to bring value to your work. Then, we've talked about stakeholder mapping, very, very important. Then you reach out during the design phase to understand their priorities. That was what we have said. And you don't leave it, you don't just invite them to listen to you. You co-create questions with them. Last year, those ones who've been following some of the discussions in Kenya, particularly in the higher education, we have a very unpopular policy about university financing. It's hit challenges. But around last year, but towards the end of last year, but one, we got interested as an organization out of some work we had done. And we decided to engage the Ministry of Education. We talked with the PS. And we also engaged them in our looking for resources. So the grant proposal we did with the ministry. And the agencies that were working with that ministry in that question of university financing. And we were able to co-create questions with them at that point. So we had a number of convenings. So what has happened is that we've gone out to the field and we've come out with very variable data that will work with them. So we're waiting now to engage to see how can we influence. This is very sticky. It's really sticky. We call it a moving target because every day something is happening. In fact, as we speak right now, the model has been halted by the judiciary. But the beauty of it is that we are working with those agencies because we are part of it. They have a stake in it, we have a stake in it. You're also supposed to nurture relationships and networks. You can engage yourselves in policy dialogues. You can join task force. You can join associations. So in our case, we've been very much in those spaces where there is dialogue taking place. Last week but one, I was with the team, the research team, and we were writing the findings. And we learned that there was going to be a convening last week now. That was last week, but once we were told next week there's going to be a conference that is bringing stakeholders interested in this university financing. I had already nurtured a relationship with the CEO of one of the fundamental agencies, actually the conveners of that conference. And because I hadn't known about that conference before, I just called him on the phone. And he told me, I will give you 2 slots. Bring your researchers. So it was very possible through just a phone call to get the researchers in that discussion. Now, what that means is that we already have a lot of buy-in and working relationship. It will be very easy for us now to table our findings and get them to listen to us because they are part of it. And we already have that very strong relationship with them. What is also important is that then you get into that policy dialogue space. You get to know what is happening. It is not easy. That is why we said that it has to be strategic and sustained. It's not something you do once. It's something that you have to keep doing. And most of you are not just coming from, school. Some of you are already actively engaged in your workspaces working with these policymakers. So it is important to nurture that relationship at the beginning. Important too is that you have to capture opportunities for communication. In this era of social media, what are you putting on the X space? What are you putting on your LinkedIn? Are you talking about your research? Because that's when you get noticed with what you're doing. We do a lot of this. When we have findings, we put it out there. And sometimes we get people reaching out. So if I post something on my space or on my organization space, then people get back and they want to know more. So you never know who exactly is coming back to you. It could be that policy actor that you want to tap into. So that is also one of the areas that we do. And of course, fostering those long-term collaboration. I talked about a model that we use at PASGR that helps us do all that I've been talking about. It's called Utafiti Sera. Kiswahili speakers in the house would know that Utafiti Sera means research policy. it's a vehicle that helps us bring or form communities of practice, of researchers and policy actors, bridging the chasm that we talked about. It's a space that brings them together so that they can work together right from the beginning when we are conceptualizing. The example I've given you of the university financing, where even the proposal funding we did together with these people, we listened to them, they listened to us, and we got to a space where we agreed, our interests got together. So Utafiti Sera helps us to do that. It's a vehicle that brings those two ends together. And I just want to take you through, it's bigger than what I can say today, but briefly, we innovated it in 2015, and it addresses the question of now what we call evidence-informed decision-making. Is really that space of using evidence for policy. And that is just a little bit of the background why we innovated it. But what is important is the last box. It's a safe space for diverse stakeholders, the researchers, the policymakers, media people, program implementers, even citizens, interested public, to collaborate and engage throughout the policy to research to policy continuum. And we talk about continuum because you can engage. We encourage engagement at the beginning, but you can engage throughout the continuum. We have what we call houses. Houses are those communities. So we have different, I've talked about the university financing, but we have others. We have social protection. We have youth and employment. We have water governance issues. There are different areas, and we have created different Utafiti Sera houses or communities. And in my next slide, you'll see what we've been able to do. First, once we constitute the house, and the house we constitute it through stakeholder mapping, I'm coming back to that, so that you have the right participants in the house. You don't want to engage people who are not strategically positioned. You now co-create and co-produce evidence. So you will design the questions together, but beyond that, you'll keep coming together. Like in my research team on university financing, we did, the researchers went, they did what we call a policy gap analysis, and they did their work, you know what we do. And then we brought that to these people, and we engaged further, and they helped us design the project, all right? Then from there, we will again come back. It was very easy for my team to go and collect data because they were collecting data from these people and people who knew them. So it was very easy. But then there is also that strategic communication that we do. And again, we do with our stakeholders or the members of the house. So what we get on the other end, the outcome is that we nurture the relationships, yes? But beyond that, we start seeing action. That's where the impact is, because we see social action and also behavior. I'll briefly, in the next slide, show you how we have changed behavior of the policy actors and policy implementers as well. And of course, we have the policy, the policies, we have laws coming out of that. So some of the quick wins out of that engagement, I'm giving this to you because it's something that we have done, it's something that is practical, it's been proven. These are some of the houses that we have convened. And we have one on urban governance. It is based in Kenya, so we call it the Urban Governance Nairobi. And we work on urban infrastructure, roads. I'm looking at some Kenyans who know how haphazard urban road infrastructure has been. So they come, the engineers come and say, we are following the policy. There's a policy that said that we are going to have road cutting here, there is a settlement here. We really don't care the government will relocate you to where. But what that happened, what that has done is that it has relocated people, it has dislodged people. And sometimes when they cut the road, they have school on this side, settlement on the other side, children being killed as they are crossing the road. You know, that kind of mess. So that is what we used to see. But through bringing the researchers and those policy actors together, they are able to discuss and then help the engineers and the policymakers have the social dimension. What do you need to consider socially? So we've been able to do that, and that has influenced the behavior. So we see that when these engineers and policymakers are coming up with their policies, but also implementing them, we have now sensitized them on the need to have the social dimension. What does this imply to the people who live around that community? And that has really helped. Then there's also a similar community in Kigali. This one has been looking at what they call secondary cities, and the findings that are coming out of our work and engagement has helped now drive their annual plans, integrate some of the findings in their strategic plans. Sometimes it is very difficult because of rigidity, but this being a negotiated space, safe space, they've been able to move the needle a little bit. Youth employment creation is one of the most successful policy. And we have seen a lot of county and national debates and a lot of good stuff that are happening among the youth, because we focus also on the value chain, agricultural value chain, and how the youth can be empowered. So out of the work that we have done and in bringing policymakers and also policy actors in that space, we've been able to inform a lot of the national and county debates, and we have seen a lot of successes in youth getting employment because the county governments now listen. So some of the counties that have been helped are those counties that never used to do very well. They come from very dry spaces. There's a county called Makueni County, and the youth there are now engaged actively in the food value chain. They grow a lot of mangoes and choose to go to waste, but now they have value additions, and these are being run by the youth themselves, heavily supported by the county governments. So these are some of the successes that we have seen. I want to stop here and invite my colleague to come and now take us. I was just giving you an introduction of why do we need to do this and at what stage do we start doing this. So my colleague will come and take you through a number of some of the strategies that we've been using. I've been talking about policy champions. I've been talking about stakeholder mapping. What do we do? So I won't invite questions at this point, but I believe later on we can have space for that. Thank you.
I will try. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please let us appreciate Dr. Pauline one more time for that wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. She's my boss. She's a very humble person, so we appreciate you, our acting executive director. I'm Fatai Aremu. She said I should introduce myself, and that's the most difficult job that I usually find hard to do. I don't know how to introduce myself other than say I'm Fatai Aremu. It's easier for I can introduce her very well. I can introduce my executive head at AISA. I'm very good at introducing people. I can write fantastic recommendations on you, and you will be asking, who am I? But I can't write on myself. That's the unfortunate thing. So let's just go straight to business, and because tea will soon be ready. I don't want to stand between you and tea break. So,
Put to context why it is important for you to say who you
so
have
the introduction.
done. Yes. It's not that I couldn't introduce Professor Fatai, but I really want you to put the context of what you do, how you put together your scholarship with the policy actors and the kind of policy actors you engage with.
Work with.
Yes.
Okay. Let me try. So I am professor of political science. I'm also executive director of research enterprise systems that is based in Abuja. And I joined the university system in 2001. But I had always been worried about this extreme focus on academic work only, just writing to publish. So sometimes in 2014, I was in Nairobi. I got enrolled on a course anchored by PASGR. It was funded by the then DFID, and we were trained on how to do policy-engaged research. I was actually one of the pioneers of African scholars that got thinking seriously about the interface between evidence production and consumption in Africa and how to facilitate that connection. At that time, I was at the National Parliament in Nigeria. I was the head of socio-political unit at the National Assembly, and the training came at the right time because I was then, I got the tools and the techniques of really producing evidence that could inform decision making. And back then, I realized that there is a huge gap between not just what researchers are doing and how they are doing it and what the end users expect. The differences are more than that. It also has to do with culture. It has to do with approach and style and the expectations. For example, in the university, we operate in a very free environment. We express ourselves. We criticize. In the policy space, it's not like that. And thank you very much for making me to start off from that point, because if you work hard to produce your evidence, and you want the evidence to be taken up and used for decision making, because that should be the essence. You want your work to solve problems, not just to end up on the shelf. So the culture of the consumers and the producers were so far apart. It was that training that got me thinking seriously about that. I will share some tips of what I have learned. After that, fast forward, I moved to the presidency. There is an institute in Nigeria that reports directly to the president of the country, and I was the head of the people that produce evidence that used to give reports to the president on any major issue. They would write us to do something. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years or more than 10 years. And we've learned so much along the line, which we are going to share. I'm very happy to be among the early career researchers, because you, in this room, are the transformers of this continent. Your own generation is different in the sense that you not only have to bridge the gap between evidence production and consumption, you also have to bridge intergenerational cleavage, because when you are dealing with policy actors, you are likely to deal with those that are a bit older than you, more experienced than you, and from the beginning, they are likely to look down on you. That what is she going to tell us? What does she know? So, but you still have to do it anyway. And the techniques, the strategies, and the approaches of navigating that complex space, we're going to be sharing over the next couple of hours or so. So that's what I have been doing. I hope I didn't make a mess of introducing myself in the process. Quick tips, some quick tips, because we may not have time to do that. What lessons have we learned over the years doing this work? And because for you, your generation is not just about publishing. Your research must solve problems, because that's also where you find accomplishments as new generation of evidence producers in Africa. First, respect. When you find yourself in the parliament or at executive platforms or any high-level policy platforms, or even when you are building relationships from the beginning, right from the ideation stage, right from the design stage, right from the research question stage, you have to respect your policy actors. And by respect, it goes way, way beyond just saying good morning, sir, and all that. You must protocols. If you want policy actors to get turned off from the beginning, just mix up the protocols. Recognize the person that you are not supposed to recognize first, and the person you're supposed to put first, put them second or last. Everything you are saying, they will not hear you. Little things matter when it comes to engaging policy, and you really want to get it right from the beginning. Once you just get the protocols wrong, everything is done. In fact, next time, they will not invite you. And when they will invite you in their meeting inside, the question they will ask is that, was it not that Dr. Rodney that flipped the protocol the other time? What is he coming to say again this time around? First impression matters. The second thing is recognition. You must recognize them. First and foremost, from their mindset, they know more than you. There is nothing you are going to tell them, no matter how good your research is. They already have the preset mind that you don't know as much as they do. Therefore, if you want to gain entry into their mindset, you must recognize them and recognize the experience that they have. Please, I'm pleading, under no circumstance must you say that they are wrong, or you make them feel that they are wrong, even if you know that they are wrong. Even if your research has pointed in the direction that what they are doing, they are not doing it right. Please don't tell them that they are wrong, and don't let them feel that they are wrong. Recognize them. Recognize the effort they have invested, the time they have used, and the experiences they have. And under that recognition, you can pitch whatever you want to say, and they will listen to you. Please don't argue with them, and don't criticize them. They don't like it. Then appreciate them. It's very important. And one of the things that you also have to watch out for is that for high-level policy actors, they crave attribution. So if you have produced a piece of evidence that is very good, and you have been working with them, always try to attribute some of the credit to them, and it will help you a lot. Then one of the things that I noticed over time, which I've observed while working with them for an extended period of time, is that our people in knowledge production space, I don't want to say the university, even some research institutes, is that they don't know how sensitive that space is. Either you are dealing with the civil service, you are dealing with politicians, parliamentarians, those high-level decision makers that are critical to research evidence uptake and utilization is the way you dress. You know, in the university we can dress. In fact, some of our colleagues in the university will say, it's not how I dress, it is what I have in my brain. Before people will listen to what you have in your brain, it is what they are seeing first. So, don't joke with it, because in all these platforms, they have rules. They can even send their members out for dressing improperly. So whenever you have the opportunity to address them. Remember, first impression matters. Second is that they are watching everything about you and sizing you up to know whether you are somebody they should take serious or somebody they should not take serious. So whenever you have the opportunity, we're going to talk about windows of opportunity later. When you have the windows of opportunity and they open the door for you, please use it very wisely so that you will have another opportunity to come and they will invite you. And finally, is resilience. By resilience, what I mean is that when you first come in, remember they already have a preset mind that you don't know as much as they do, and you are just there to share some academic findings that does not have any use in real world, something like that. So the chances are that the first time you knock on the door and the door is open, they are likely to either intimidate you or frustrate you or even condemn you. Don't give up. If you want to thrive in this space of policy-oriented research, which is where you should be, because that's where the future, the present is for Africa, you have to be resilient. You must learn to realize that even if they tell you no, this is not possible, it's just no at that moment. It's not going to be no tomorrow or next tomorrow. So you keep on knocking. These are just quick tips on that. So because we have to go for tea quickly, Dr. Pauline has eloquently taken us through the Utafiti Sera house. What we are just going to rush through briefly is just to remind ourselves that this space of policy-oriented research or the engaged researcher is a bit unique. And to be honest with you, I'm being honest with you, even those who think they do understand what this is, they don't really understand what it is. It is not the way it seems on the surface. There is more to it than meets the eyes. And the more we are able to come to terms with this reality, the better the chances of bridging that gap between fine evidence producers that are deploying a lot of techniques and those who really need that evidence for problem solving across African communities. And an engaged researcher is that researcher that produces his or her work to directly or indirectly inform or guide decisions and actions for the purpose of addressing clearly defined problems in the society. So normally, and Dr. Pauline has emphasized repeatedly, it's a collaborative approach between different categories of stakeholders in that space. And she mentioned the fact that it is co-creation. It's about negotiation. It's not easy because the researcher is already having their own space that, no, I know this. You have to be willing to yield because if you want to address real-life challenges, flexibility is the rule of the game. And she also mentioned the fact that you have to build trust, create opportunities for mutual learning, and shared ownership of the research outcomes. What distinguishes engaged research from the other kinds of research that we do is that in most cases it is demand-driven. Demand-driven in the sense that, as she mentioned, from the beginning, at the design stage, you want to know what they are thinking. If you wait until the end, I think there's a contributor who mentioned that earlier, which is very good. If you wait until the end, the so-called dissemination that we used to talk about, you are disseminating evidence that they didn't know anything about from the beginning. Why should they use it? It might not even align with what they really feel is the problem. But from the beginning, if you engage them, you get an idea. Sometimes, if they already know you, they will even place a call to you. Say, we are struggling with this, can you give us evidence in this area? Or it might not be direct, it might be indirect. Either you are watching TV and you are watching debates on the parliament, or you are reading in the newspapers, or you are just watching a briefing. You can pull out research problems that can be problem solving just by observing those platforms and listen to them. As a policy-engaged researcher, you have to pay attention to the committees that are relevant to the area of research in the parliament. You have to pay attention. Sometimes, when they do public hearing, please go there. build relationship with the clerk of the committee or members of the committee. Get their phone numbers, place a call through to them. Tell them, because I'm saying this because I've had the privilege of sitting in the room many times where decision makers are struggling with ideas about something that is before them, and they didn't know where to go or who to turn to. And I've also been in spaces where researchers are busy sweating, moving from library to the other, generating evidence, and they don't know that there are people who are struggling to get access to that evidence. So for some of us that are here, we have a calling. It is just a special calling that we are gathered in this room, that we have responsibility to be visible, to be present in that space. Know the committee that is, we demand it, that aligns with the research that you are doing, and build friendship, partnership with them, just like what you said. Make friends with them. They will be the one to be calling you. It will enhance your visibility. It will enhance your access to data, the kind of data that you will ordinarily never have access to unless they trust you. It is by building that relationship that, so, and, uptake will be fairly guaranteed because they already know you. They already know you are doing something. In fact, they will be the one to be calling you. We have a meeting. Can you come and make a presentation to us? We want to listen to you. Of course, it goes without saying that when you do this kind of research, this idea of building disciplinary boundaries is out of the way. You have to be multidisciplinary. You have to be both quantitative and qualitative to strengthen your evidence. And then, of course, it begins and ends with policy actors and decision makers and action takers. But one thing that I would like to say, though, is that once you are in this space and you are doing it right, most policies or most policy decisions sit at the very delicate crossroad of high-level politics. So you will realize it. You have to find a way. Look at local governance. Look at climate change. Sometimes they could be very ideological and politically divisive. So you have to get that skill to manage these kind of complexities right from the beginning. Of course, we're already familiar with this from the pre-design stage. Even identifying which research problem you want to focus on, engagement begins at that point. The reason is that what you may be thinking is the problem may not be what they feel is the problem at that moment. You may be thinking of something, they may say, yeah, that is a problem, but right now our major concern is actually this, because we are struggling with how to design policies on this. So if you can focus your research on this, it will be very helpful. So that's why engagement from the beginning is very important. And even at the design stage, in framing the problem, you lose nothing by reaching out to them that this is what I'm thinking, what do you think about it? Not that you reach out to everybody. You have to find specific ones, and they'll become your champions. They become your facilitators. They can open doors for you to places that you least expect. And then even at the execution stage, when you are dealing with evidence production that is truly problem solving, there is something that you are likely to come up against. Those who are in charge of that policy, they can be very protective and they can be very suspicious. They may know that they already have problems, either in the design of the policy or in the implementation of the policies. And they don't want to be exposed to having got it right because of the likely political fallout. They can be very protective of the data. They may not want you to have access to the data because they believe that once you have access to the data, it will go to the public and they will be put to shame. Therefore, they are likely to be fencing you out. But if you are able to build relationship with them and they can trust you that this data is not going to be used in a way that will put them in danger, and you, as policy-oriented research, you are also ethically bound to not harm those people who have helped you in doing your research very well. So if they can see you as somebody who is ethically compliant, and the way you are going to frame your findings, the way you are going to use the data is not going to put them to danger in any way, they will trust you, and they will open doors for you and support you. And even at post-execution stage, which has to now do with evidence uptake and utilization, they will also be very useful for you. So just to round up, because of time, this, of course, this slide, maybe they're already with you. They'll be with you. So this is like the continuum of engagement, or maybe something like this. This is where somebody spoke about this. I don't know whether it's the executive head or someone. Oh, sorry, Future Hub Leadership Center. He mentioned the fact that you have to be mindful of the fact that the older generation of researchers were very comfortable to be pure scientists. They did, according to him in quote, they did most of their research in the lab. That you can do your research in the lab, but you must also step out of the lab and connect with the world outside of the lab, because at the end of the day, what you are doing is supposed to solve the problem out there. But then there are different categories, and they have their different principles. You could be a science arbiter, where you are then trying to know what are the competing evidence out there and laying it before your evidence consumers. Or you are honest broker of policy alternatives, or you are an issue advocate. There are conditions that govern where you belong. Let's say this one is the foundation. At any point in time, we must be here, because without having some pure science, you may not be able to dwell well in these spaces, but you also want to move. So if we take this as an example, this is a delicate zone. Delicate because once you do your research, you get your findings. Your finding is pointing towards certain directions, and you are making prescriptions. You can make prescriptions in two ways. When you limit the choices, you are tying the hands of the decision makers, or the end users, or the consumers. There are instances that this may work, but there are also instances that this may boomerang. An average policymaker, an average decision maker does not want the researcher to tie his or her hands. They would rather want you to open choices and say, option A, these are the pros and cons of this option. If you do this, these are the things you're likely to get. Option B, these are the pros and cons of these options. Then this is option C. These are the pros and cons. They still want to retain that prerogative of deciding what they will do in view of resources available, political considerations, or the situation at that point in time. So most researchers make mistakes of going straight to listing out recommendations. I think it will be better, before we actually proceed to recommendations, we try to do what we can call options feasibility analysis for them. When they now decide to choose option A or B or C, they will now go to the recommendations that are under each of the options. That way, you are also recognizing their authority as the ultimate decision maker. I think this slide will be given to you, and then we can have more discussions on it as we move along. The question is, as we go through these sessions, you begin to ask yourself, who are you? Do you want to be an issue advocate? Do you want to be a honest broker of policy alternatives? Or do you want to be a science habitat, or you still want to remain a pure scientist? I think that's, again, I don't want to be an issue advocate. I don't want to impose on you. The decisions to belong in any of the spaces are yours.
I would probably pause here if there are questions that we want to take before we proceed for tea, so that after tea break, we'll take it forward from here. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Thank you. Yes, we have, we'll take her, then we'll take you, and then come here, and then we go to the right. Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Okay. Yes. So my name is Dimpo. I'm with the University of Johannesburg. My research is in strategic communication. So my question would then be if, at what point do we engage the communities? Because one of the theories that we look at is stakeholder engagement. So then when do we bridge the gap between the community, the policymakers, and you as a researcher in this case? Thank you.
I was not next. Just a quick one. I want to find out in terms of engaging at the conceptualization level. It seemed to me that is much of a bit of a slippery slope in terms of you as a researcher trying to protect the work you're doing in a way and have the outcomes that are not, or the results that are not already influenced by people that will be maybe potential funders or the actual policy makers, because there was a point that Dr. Paulina mentioned about maybe you at some point engaging them at conceptualization, end up getting money and all of that. And then engaging the policymakers from the beginning, you're getting a clear understanding of what the problem is and all of that. But at the same time, how do you protect the work that you're doing so that you don't have the already predetermined outcomes? Because it's a very slippery slope in terms of you can get a particular amount of money to do the research, but then they're saying, but tone down a little bit on the issues of, for example, don't say anything about oil, don't draw those links between the fossil fuel industry and then the carbon emissions, the climate change and all of that. And that is not speculative. We know of very active lobbyists who are providing those kinds of funding. But the point I'm making is, when you're engaging them at that stage, how do you then protect the work that you're doing so that it is not diluted by very nefarious, intentions in a way? If that makes sense. Thank you.
Maybe we can just finish.
Thank you very much. My name is Abela from Precious Cornerstone University, Nigeria. Abela, my question is with respect to the last slide. Is it a must that in order for you to actually give policy actors options, does it mean that you have to start considering different scenarios in the course of your research to be an evidence base? Take, for instance, now, by the time we arrived in South Africa, I saw there's an agitation to increase VAT by 2%. It means if I actually want to embark in such research, I can actually give the government scenario. That is, if government should increase the VAT by 2%, 5%, 10%, so that I can actually give them options in terms of my outcome in order for them to actually choose the path and the likely implication of this policy. Is it a must that you must always consider a scenario analysis or a scenario evidence-based in order for us to actually arrive at providing options for the policy actors? Thank you.
By the way, you can provide options if it is just about increasing from 2% to 5% to 10%. That's one option. You are increasing. What of reducing?
It's also possible to consider that. It's also possible to consider.
I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Dela Sorci from Togo, Université de Lomé. I would like to continue in French, please.
We have,
Je suis, thank you very much. Et I'm tempted. Je suis tenté de. I'm tempted to propose another topic, to Dr. Pauline, because I would like to talk about the relation between governance, research, and dictature.
Please speak French. Don't
Okay.
worry, Professor Check will interpret.
Merci
for
bien.
us.
Je voudrais soulever un problème qui prend la forme d'une question. Généralement, dans nos contextes togolais, que tu sois au Togo ou dans d'autres pays où la liberté d'expression est piétinée, là je pèse mes mots, il est souvent difficile de mener des recherches sensibles. J'entends par recherche sensible les questions relatives, par exemple, au coup d'État. C'est un exemple que je donne. Des questions relatives au détournement de deniers publics et à la corruption. Alors, on a l'impression que lorsqu'il faut toujours avoir l'aval des gouvernants, on ne peut pas faire de la recherche si on aborde des questions sensibles. Je voudrais savoir si la méthode du docteur Pauline, la méthode qu'elle partage avec nous, est valable pour les États où la démocratie et la liberté d'expression, la liberté de recherche sont piétinées, sont étouffées. L'autre question, l'autre problème que je voulais soulever est relative à la pluridisciplinarité. Et we talk about multidisciplinarité, transdisciplinarité. Dans nos contextes africains, je ne sais pas si vous partagez les mêmes réalités, au Togo, en Afrique de l'Ouest, certaines disciplines ne sont pas prises en compte. Moi, je fais de l'éthique et de la philosophie politique. Je suis docteur en éthique appliquée et en philosophie politique. J'ai remarqué que ceux qui sont sollicités sont souvent ceux qui ont fait le droit, ceux qui ont fait la médecine, l'agronomie, l'économie, mais pas ceux qui ont fait les sciences sociales. Comment est-ce que vous vivez l'expérience de la multidisciplinarité, de la pluridisciplinarité dans vos pays? Merci.
Thank you. I think his questions, he talked about the sensitivity of researching in should we say police states, countries like Togo, for example, where he come from, where he can research certain topics. For example, the issue of coup d'etats. He can really research coup d'etats or issues of embezzlement, corruption in countries that are democratically constrained, so to speak. And his question is, what then should we do in situations like this? I think the question was directly posed to Dr. Ngiame to say, what exactly should they do then? That is it like in that kind of countries, social science researchers can really prefer policy direction to government, so to speak. The second one was on the issue of multidisciplinarity in terms of how government view research. He said, for example, he is a political ethicist, so to speak, but when it comes to issues relating to his field, the government really don't consult them. The government consult people in different areas. So how then can he, in his own field, contribute to the policy environment in his country?
Okay. Maybe we can take these ones, isn't it?
Okay.
Oh, please.
Okay, thank you. Jafet Ondiek from the University of Nairobi. Now, my question connects to the first presenter, Dr. Ngimwa, and also connecting to you having worked in the parliament. Now, recently, I conducted a study as a research assistant to one of the principal investigators from the London School of Economics about evidence-based policy in parliamentary or policy-making process. And having approached the parliament and having interviewed some of the members of parliament, it was clear that conducting or developing policy is a political process, basically. And it falls with the politicians. So in all in all, research that is conducted is termed as sometimes baseless because the executive are the key decision makers in terms of which policy is going to be implemented, where and when. So at what particular process does research interface with the policy, and what is the role of political space in all this?
Thank you. I think we can take these questions. Maybe I'll take some, then Dr. Pauline can come to. I will just be very brief on each of them. Let me use the mic so that I can have you move around. So thank you very much for the question. Our colleague from Research Communications, and she asked that at what point should the community be engaged? So the first question will be, which community? What community are we talking about? So the moment you are setting out as a policy-engaged researcher, you, from the beginning, have to map the policy space that your research is speaking to. And you have to be very systematic about that. You have to not be generic. You can't be one size fits all. There is no way that you are, say the legislature is part of the stakeholders. This legislature is a very huge space. Which committee precisely, or which set of committees are you going to connect with? If you say the executive, are you talking about the civil service? Are you in the civil service? There are also different units or MDAs, as she rightly. You have to precisely identify that agency or that committee whose mandate connects with the work that you are doing. So even when we talk about community, we also need to know which community to engage, which specific community. Is it a community of farmers? Is it a community of women farmers? Community of beneficiaries of social investment programs? The women, the people with disability. So we need to know for each community. And it will also be nice to bring them in for engagement right from the beginning and know how the research is likely to impact them and how they may also impact your research. So this kind of symbiotic relationship, you build it. It's not supposed to be limited to government only. I'm sure that's where you're coming from, and that's perfect. But we have to be pinpoint in terms of the mapping and the precision of the actors we're engaging. This question is a very, very important one and very tricky one. The question about protecting your work from being contaminated and being derailed, because the moment you now have to be engaging policy actors from the beginning, and you want to be flexible, the chances are that they may end up pushing you away from what you wanted to actually do your research on. Am I correct? Or what you actually have in mind to do, because now this one is saying go to this direction, this one is saying no, it is not that direction at the end of the day, and you have what you had already prepared. That's a very important question, and that's one of the things that makes policy-engaged research to be different from pure academic research. Once you are doing your academic research, you decide on your topic, you decide on the problem, you just get the literature, look at the gap in the literature, design, you go ahead, and you publish. the chances are that some people may read the article, some people may not read the article, but it is very, very unlikely that the outcome of that process will change anything out there. Now, now up to you. You have to still keep your eye on the ball. What is that minimum level that you want to achieve with your research? Which ones are you open to giving up? Which ones are you not likely to give up? But you have to give. It's a negotiation process. And let me tell you something. Sometimes we as researchers, because we have read so much, we believe that we know something for sure. And there are some things that we believe strongly that we are right on, that we are spot on. This is the way this is. I will end this response by drawing us to Socrates, which is one of the greatest philosophers the world has ever known. His famous quote, one of the most famous quotes, is, "The only thing that I know, and I'm sure I know, is that I don't know anything." Now, if Socrates can say that, who is Aremu to say that I am very sure that this is the way this is? You have to have an open mind. You must always, in conversation with people, we grow. We grow. We go into arguments, and we are doing the argument, and we are so sure that the other person is wrong and we are right. But if Socrates can keep on saying that the only thing that I know is that I know nothing, that will make us to always ask ourselves, I may be wrong. They may be right. Let me think about this again. Let me go back to my design and see. And if you do that, you realize that you will be the ultimate beneficiary of having an open mind to reconsider your design from time to time and not having this rigid mindset. Of course, as I said earlier, you still have to have that minimum level that you are saying, no, this is where I want, because some people may say, no, why are you doing social investment? Why don't you do something entirely in agriculture? So I think we just have to do that. So, Dr. Abiola, is it a must that provide options? No. You may decide not to provide options. I'm just sharing the experience from what I have seen from the inside. And sometimes when some professors, senior ones, do research and it comes before the committee and they are considering it, or the executive council, they are considering it, and they say, all these recommendations, why is it limiting us to this particular one? Why not give us different options? Because when you go straight from your findings to your recommendations, the chances are that you have already limited the range of options before the end users. So it's a conversation that we have to continue. It's not something that we can finalize at this point, but the point is that if you lay out options, for example, the example of tax increase, VAT increase, from 2% to 5% to 10% or whatever, there are options, but they are still within the range of one particular option, which is increased VAT. What about, is it possible? Is there evidence that when you actually reduce VAT, you can still achieve those macro and microeconomic objectives you want to achieve without necessarily snuffing life out of taxpayers? Can we generate evidence on that? So can we now say option A, increase this, these are the pros and cons. Option B, you can actually reduce it, and these are the pros and cons. It's now up to you to decide what you want. I don't know. My brother from Togo, your questions are usually very thought-provoking, to be honest, and very deep. But what I will say is this. Just take any political system, so-called democratic systems. There is hardly any of them that you are conducting research that is really critical about the policies that government is implementing, that you may not find yourself in trouble. including the United States. There is hardly. Once you are getting policy research right, you are already in trouble. You have to find a way to manage the trouble because you have to be alive first before any other thing. I'm telling you the truth. There is no research, policy research, that you are doing and you are doing well and you are hitting the right point, that you will have some people that will be feeling the pain and they will be thinking that, what is this? So we just have to be very careful as researchers that are engaged in policy and know how to navigate that delicate. I'm being honest with you. It varies. The level of sensitivity varies from one country to the other, but all so-called democratic systems, they become very sensitive when they realize that the kind of research you are doing is hitting the right point, either from the civil service, among the politicians, even from the community. They'll begin to, so you have to learn the trick and the technique of managing the emotions that may come out of the research that you are doing. Multidisciplinarity. See, one thing that I'll tell you, once you are getting policy research right, there will be elements of it that will relate to law. Maybe enactment of a law or amendment of an existing law. You are not a lawyer, but you need some legal advice or knowledge. There will be aspects of it that will relate to finance or economics. You may not be an economist. You may need the support of those who are experts in that area. Of course, there will be aspects of it that will relate to politics. You may need to also get ideas from those who understand how to deal with complex political realities. Once it is policy-oriented research, it is very hard to escape multidisciplinary or transdisciplinary models or approaches. And that's the reality of the matter. So my brother from University of Nairobi, you see, what I have learned with most policy, those who are doing policy research, is that they really don't understand the system they are dealing with very well. Honestly, they do it from the tech. Interested in funneling evidence to shape policy must be interested in gaining access to that meeting that they do. Because that's where the real action, before it gets to the desk of the political head of the ministry, they have already completed the work. Civil servants are more powerful than they appear on the surface, and they do not want to be seen to be powerful. But once a minister comes, and the minister is speaking English, they will be looking at themselves, say, don't worry, he will go. He will leave us here. 4 years, maximum, another person is coming. This is how they will be looking at the person. That's why when the minister comes and they are blowing grammar, they are doing all those things, by the time they finish office, if you don't learn how to work with the civil servant very well, you won't achieve anything. Or they might even put you in trouble and you end up in jail. Because they know where the pitfalls are. And when you are falling, they are keeping the record. You are signing, they are keeping it. By the time they come after the minister, he will be shivering. So, we have to. High-level people sometimes having high-level position, for example, presidents. What can presidents do?
Sorry, Prof. Can we kindly wrap up
Yes.
the session?
So let us, maybe Dr. Pauline would like to say some things before we go for the tea break.
Sure.
Yes,
And
thank
the
you
others,
very
we
much.
can take them during tea break. If you've got questions, comments for our facilitators, we can also have them during the tea break. Doc, do you want to say something before we close? Thank you.
My expert here has really talked from his experience. The only thing that I probably need to underscore, and it will come later, is there's what we call the policy champions. We lay a lot of emphasis. They help us navigate that very murky space. I think that's the only thing I wanted to say. And also to say that we can't run away from the fact that policy making is also a political process. But I think he's really laid out what happens behind the scenes. Yeah. There's a desperate hand there, and I really want to encourage you to bring it up in the next session after the tea. So if you could kindly hold, I believe we'll give you an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause for our facilitators. Colleagues, tea is being served just outside here, and we have eaten up our tea time.